think your money puts you above this court. That accusation explodes live as Judge Frank Caprio confronts Ethan Trask Jr. in a packed courtroom. In under 60 seconds, arrogance collides with the law, and a wealthy defendant openly dares judicial authority. The tension is raw, the anger undeniable, and the core question cuts deep. When wealth openly challenges justice on record, does the court bend or does someone finally fall? The cameras go live, no warning. Judge Frank Caprio's first words are not a greeting, they're a detonation. Ethan Trask Jr., you walked into this courtroom believing your bank account grants immunity from law. The statement isn't an accusation waiting for response. It's a verdict already forming. That belief ends today. The clerk barks the order. Everyone stands. Ethan doesn't move. He stays seated, phone in hand, thumb still scrolling. Deliberate, calculated, contemptuous. This isn't confusion. This is warfare announced through posture. Caprio's voice drops to something lethal. Stand. Up. Now. Ethan glances up, eyes bored, mouth curling into a smirk that says everything his silence doesn't. Judge, I've been standing all day. Comfort matters more than theater. The word theater lands like spit on the bench. The room doesn't gasp. It stops breathing. A defendant just called the court meaningless. On camera. Under oath. Publicly. Caprio's knuckles whiten against the wood. You believe ceremony is negotiable. You're about to learn what isn't. Ethan rises, finally movements, dripping mockery, as if he's humoring a child's tantrum. Caprio doesn't wait for him to settle. This hearing answers one question only. His voice fills every corner, every microphone. When wealth decides law is optional, does justice collapse or does it fight back? Silence slams down. Absolute. Suffocating. The question isn't rhetorical, it's a challenge. And everyone watching knows blood is coming. Ethan doesn't wait for permission to speak. He interrupts the clerk mid-sentence. Let me save everyone time, Judge. His voice is sharp, executive, accustomed to rooms that listen when he talks. I paid $4.7 million in state taxes last year. My companies employ 340 people in this city alone. I've donated to every major infrastructure project, every political campaign that keeps this place functional. He ticks off contributions like receipts slapped on a counter. So yes, I believe someone funding the system deserves consideration within it. That's not entitlement, that's economics. The word drips contempt. He's not arguing. He's explaining reality to people too stupid to see it. Caprio's gavel cracks once, hard. The sound silences Ethan mid-breath. This case stopped being about traffic citations the second you equated dollars with legal immunity. His voice is ice wrapped around steel. The law protects your property, your contracts, your right to earn. In exchange, it binds your conduct. You don't pick one without the other. Ethan scoffs. That's idealism, Judge. Reality is messier. Caprio leans forward, eyes boring into him. No. What you're describing is corruption dressed as pragmatism, and you just confessed to it on record. The room tightens. Someone coughs nervously. Ethan's smirk doesn't fade, but his jaw hardens. Ethan's voice rises, shedding the executive polish for raw arrogance. People like me don't follow laws, Judge. We write them. We fund the campaigns. We hire the lobbyists. We shape policy while you enforce paperwork. The statement detonates, not shouted, stated, as fact, as power acknowledged openly. So don't lecture me about boundaries when this entire system exists because people like me allow it to. Caprio's expression doesn't change, but something deadly settles behind his eyes. You just described law as purchasable commodity. His voice drops to a whisper that somehow fills the room. That confession is now permanent record, and it will destroy you. Caprio doesn't respond to Ethan's declaration. He opens the file instead, lets the paper speak. 17 violations, 93 days. He reads without looking up, voice flat, clinical. School zone speeding, red light, fire lane, handicapped parking, another school zone, reckless driving, failure to yield. The list continues, each entry, stripped of context, reduced to cold repetition. Not errors, not accidents, decisions. He finally raises his eyes. You didn't break these laws because you forgot them. You broke them because you decided they didn't apply. Ethan shrugs. I had places to be, responsibilities. Caprio's voice drops to something dangerous. So did everyone you endangered getting there. Caprio gestures to the courtroom. Look around, Mr. Trask. His hand sweeps across the gallery. Working people, tired faces, wrinkled clothes worn from shifts that started before dawn. Every person here followed protocol before speaking. They stood when ordered. They waited their turn. Not because they agreed with me, because the system requires it. He points back at Ethan. You sat because you believed the requirement didn't reach you. You spoke out of turn because you assumed your time mattered more than procedure. The contrast is brutal, visual, undeniable. Wealth versus discipline. Arrogance versus respect. One of these approaches maintains civilization. Yours destroys it. Caprio closes the file with deliberate force. The sound cracks through the microphones. This case is no longer about traffic violations. His voice rises for the first time, controlled fury bleeding through judicial restraint. It's about whether law applies equally or whether money rewrites it in real time. Ethan opens his mouth. Caprio's hand slams the bench. I'm not finished. The room flinches. You claim people like you write the laws. Fine. But this courtroom is where those laws meet reality, where wealth stops talking and accountability starts. He leans forward, eyes locked. And you just became the test case for whether that still means anything. Ethan's attorney lunges to his feet. Caprio's voice detonates before the man's mouth opens. Sit down or I'll have you removed. The lawyer collapses back like he's been shot. Caprio's eyes never leave Ethan. Traffic camera footage from the school zone. Gone. Dash cam video showing your vehicle. Corrupted. Witness who saw you run the red light. Withdrew her statement the day after someone visited her workplace. He slams each piece of evidence onto the screen. Someone made those problems disappear. Ethan doesn't flinch, doesn't deny. He smirks. Judge, not every piece of evidence deserves to exist. The system makes choices. I made mine. The words land like a bomb with a slow fuse. The courtroom goes dead still. Caprio's voice drops to something lethal. You made choices about evidence. In your own criminal case, Ethan nods casual like he's discussing lunch options. If prosecutors can choose what to pursue, why can't I choose what to preserve? Caprio's face goes white, not with fear, with rage so pure it's terrifying. Because you're the defendant, because the evidence documents your crimes, because you don't get to destroy proof of your guilt and call it discretion. Ethan laughs, actually laughs. Crime I drove fast, Judge. Nobody died, no blood, no tragedy. Just your cameras catching me late for a meeting. He spreads his hands. So yes, I decided that footage wasn't worth keeping. What are you going to do about it? The challenge hangs in the air like a noose. Caprio stands slowly. The movement silences the room more effectively than any gavel. What am I going to do? His voice is quiet now, deadly quiet. I'm going to ask you one question, and your answer will determine whether you walk out of here or get carried out in handcuffs. He pauses. Who gave you the authority to decide which evidence in a criminal investigation is worth preserving? Ethan's smile widens. The same person who gave you the authority to sit on that bench and lecture me. Myself. Caprio's control snaps. You think you gave yourself prosecutorial immunity? His voice cracks through the room like thunder. Ethan doesn't back down. He steps forward, voice rising to match the judge's fury. I think the law is a tool, and tools serve the people who know how to use them. You sit there pretending it's sacred, but we both know it's just leverage. And I have more leverage than you'll ever touch. Leverage. Caprio's voice is shaking now. Not with fear. With the effort of not ordering the bailiff to drag this man out immediately. You call obstruction of justice leverage. You destroyed evidence showing you endangered 47 children, and you're calling it strategy. Ethan's face flushes red. Those children were never in danger. I'm a good driver. Better than half the incompetent fools clogging these streets. Just because some paranoid parent filed a complaint doesn't mean I was reckless. Caprio slams both hands on the bench. The crack echoes like gunfire. A crossing guard had her stop sign raised. Kids were on the sidewalk. You were doing 60 and a 35. That's not driving, that's attempted manslaughter with a luxury vehicle? Ethan's voice goes cold. Attempted. Nobody got hurt. You're prosecuting a hypothetical. You're punishing me for what didn't happen because you need to feel powerful. The accusation silences the room. Ethan continues, emboldened by Caprio's momentary shock. That's what this is really about, isn't it? You can't stand that someone walked in here who doesn't bow, who doesn't grovel, who knows your authority ends the second I decide it does. He points at the bench. You're not a king judge. You're a clerk, and clerks don't tell me what matters. Caprio's voice, when it emerges, is barely human, pure rage compressed into words. I'm the only thing standing between you and a cell, and you just called me a clerk, in my courtroom, on record, while confessing to evidence tampering. His smile is terrifying. Please, keep talking. Ethan doesn't stop, can't stop. Arrogance has replaced survival instinct completely. You want me to stop? Fine. Let me finish the thought. He turns to face the cameras directly. I decide what evidence matters. Not you. Not some traffic cop with a quota. Not some prosecutor chasing headlines. Me? Because I'm the one who actually understands what's important and what's bureaucratic theater designed to control people too weak to resist. The courtroom erupts in chaos. Shouting. Gasps. Someone yells, "Arrest him." Caprio's gavel strikes once, twice, 3 times. Silence crashes back like a physical force. His voice cuts through. You just confessed, on camera, under oath, to destroying evidence in an active investigation and claiming personal authority to determine which laws you'll obey. Ethan's face shows realization too late. His mouth opens, closes, opens again. I didn't mean. Caprio's laugh is cruel. You meant every word, and now it's permanent. Recorded, transcribed, uploaded to every news station broadcasting this hearing. He leans forward, voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carries to every corner. You stood in my courtroom and declared yourself above the law, not in coded language, not in careful phrasing. You said it plain. Ethan's attorney is pulling his arm, whispering frantically. Ethan shakes him off violently. Get off me. He turns back to Caprio, composure shattered face twisted with rage and dawning fear. You're twisting my words. I was speaking hypothetically about systematic priorities. Caprio's smile is ice. No, you were speaking honestly. For the first time since you walked in here, you dropped the pretense and showed everyone exactly who you are. He picks up his gavel, holds it suspended. Someone who believes wealth purchases the right to choose which laws apply. Someone who destroys evidence and calls it judgment. Someone who endangered children and claims it doesn't matter because he got lucky. The gavel rises higher. That person doesn't get to negotiate anymore. That person gets consequences. The gavel hangs in the air. The room holds its breath. And Ethan Trask Jr. finally understands he's not leaving this courtroom the same way he entered. Caprio doesn't lower the gavel. He holds it suspended, letting the threat breathe. Then he sets it down with deliberate care and pulls up a video file. You claimed nobody was in danger. You said the evidence was irrelevant. Let's test that claim. He clicks play. The courtroom monitor fills with security footage. Timestamp, September 14th, 3rd, 17 p.m. The angle shows a school crosswalk. Clear, high definition, undeniable. A crossing guard steps into the street stop sign raised. Children cluster on the sidewalk. 7, 8, 9 visible in frame. Then Ethan's Mercedes appears, not slowing, accelerating. The speedometer overlay reads 61 mph in a 35 zone. The crossing guard's face shows terror. She jumps backward. The car misses her by 18 inches. Kids scream. Parents lunge to pull children back. The Mercedes doesn't brake, doesn't slow, just vanishes off frame, leaving chaos in its wake. The video ends. The silence is absolute. Ethan's face has gone white. His attorney looks like he wants to vomit. Caprio's voice cuts through. You said nobody was in danger. Explain that woman's face. Explain those children screaming. Explain the parent who fell pulling her daughter back and fractured her wrist. He pulls up a medical report. Jennifer Hale, 32, broken wrist in 2 places, required surgery, 6 weeks recovery, lost wages $4,800 because you were late for a meeting. Ethan finds his voice, but it's shaking now. I didn't see her. The angle was wrong. The sun was in my eyes. Caprio slams his hand down. The sun was behind you. The timestamp shows 3:17 p.m., September 14th. Sun sets at 7:43. You had perfect visibility. He plays the video again, slowed down, frame by frame. The crossing guard is visible for 4 full seconds before Ethan's car reaches the intersection. Her reflective vest bright orange against the pavement. The stop sign impossible to miss. You saw her. You calculated you could make it. And you gambled with 9 children's lives to save 30 seconds. Caprio's voice is shaking with barely controlled fury. Then you paid someone to corrupt this footage so it would never see a courtroom. You decided this evidence didn't matter. You decided Jennifer Hale's broken wrist was irrelevant. You decided those terrified children were hypothetical. He pauses. Who gave you that right? Ethan has no answer. The video has stripped away every defense, every justification, every claim of careful judgment. What remains is raw recklessness preserved in high definition, and everyone in the courtroom just watched it. Twice. Caprio isn't finished. The footage you tried to destroy, let's discuss how that happened. He pulls up phone records, call logs, timestamps. September 16th, 2 days after the incident, you made 4 calls. First to your attorney, expected. Second to someone named Marcus Webb, private investigator, specializes in evidence acquisition and disposal. The room goes dead silent. Third call to the police department's evidence storage facility, lasted 11 minutes. Fourth call back to Marcus Webb, lasted 3 minutes. He clicks another file. Audio plays. Ethan's voice, clear, unmistakable. I need that footage gone. I don't care how much it costs. Make it disappear. Webb's response is calm, professional. School zone cameras are networked. I'll need access codes and time. Figure $50,000 to $100,000 for the risk. Ethan doesn't hesitate. Done. I'll wire it today. Just make sure it's permanent. The recording ends. The courtroom explodes. Ethan's attorney is on his feet, screaming about illegal wiretaps, inadmissible evidence privacy violations. Caprio's gavel cracks like a gunshot. Sit down. That recording came from Marcus Webb's own phone. He's currently cooperating with federal investigators on 17 separate cases of evidence tampering. Your client's case is number 4 on his list. Ethan's face has gone from white to gray. His voice is hoarse. That's entrapment. He recorded me without consent. Caprio's laugh is vicious. He recorded you committing a felony. Single-party consent state. Perfectly legal and perfectly damning. He pulls up more files. Bank records. Wire transfers. September 16th, $50,000 transferred to Webb's account. September 18th, school zone footage reported corrupted. September 22nd, witness Jennifer Hale receives a phone call. Another audio file plays. Different voice this time. Male. Cold. Ms. Hale, this is regarding your complaint about the school zone incident. I'm calling to inform you that pursuing this matter could have consequences for your employment. Your supervisor has been made aware of your tendency to file frivolous reports. I'd suggest withdrawing your statement before this becomes a professional issue. Jennifer's voice shakes. Who is this? How did you get my supervisor's name? The line goes dead. Caprio looks at Ethan. That call was placed from a number registered to your personal assistant, Sharon Mitchell. She's also cooperating with investigators. Immunity deal. Full testimony. Ethan's mouth opens. Nothing comes out. His world is collapsing in real time, on camera, under oath. With no way to stop it, Caprio stands, walks around the bench, approaches Ethan directly. The bailiff tenses but doesn't intervene. Let me ask you some questions. Simple ones, yes or no answers. His voice is quiet now, conversational, terrifying. Did you pay Marcus Webb $50,000 to destroy evidence? Ethan's attorney grabs his arm. Don't answer that. Caprio's smile is cold. He already answered it. On a recorded phone call, I'm just giving him a chance to lie under oath so I can add perjury to his charges. Ethan stays silent. Caprio continues. Did you instruct your assistant to threaten Jennifer Hale into withdrawing her complaint? Silence. Did you believe your wealth entitled you to destroy evidence, intimidate witnesses, and obstruct justice without consequence? Ethan's voice finally emerges, barely a whisper. I was protecting myself. That's not a crime. Caprio's response is immediate, brutal. Protecting yourself by committing 3 separate felonies. Evidence tampering, witness intimidation, obstruction of justice. Each carries 5 years maximum. That's 15 years you were willing to risk to avoid a traffic ticket. He leans closer. What does that say about your judgment, about your respect for law, about your belief that rules apply to you? Ethan's face twists with desperation and rage. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. The expectations, one scandal and my investors bail. My board loses confidence. My competitors smell blood. His voice rises. I couldn't let some crossing guard with an axe to grind destroy everything I've built over a misunderstanding. Caprio's voice drops to something deadly. You call nearly killing 9 children a misunderstanding. You call threatening a woman's livelihood protection. You call destroying evidence judgment. He steps back. No, Mr. Trask, those aren't misunderstandings. They're choices. Calculated, deliberate, criminal. He returns to the bench. And every single one is documented, recorded, preserved, despite your best efforts to make it disappear. He picks up the gavel again. You asked who gave me the right to judge you. The answer is simple. You did. The moment you committed crimes and believed money would erase them. The moment you gambled with children's lives and called it necessity. The moment you walked into my courtroom and confessed to it all on camera. The gavel rises. That was your choice. This is mine. The gavel hasn't fallen yet when a voice cuts through from the gallery. Your Honor, I'd like to speak. Every head turns. Jennifer Hale stands. 32. Crossing guard uniform still on from her morning shift. Her right wrist is in a brace. Visible, undeniable. Caprio nods. Approach. She walks forward movements, careful, favoring the injured arm. She doesn't look at Ethan. Doesn't acknowledge his existence. She faces the judge directly. I'm not here for money. I don't want his settlement. I don't want his apology. Her voice is steady, clear, carrying the weight of someone who's thought about these words for weeks. I want the record to show what happened, not his version, the truth. She pulls a folded paper from her pocket. This is the phone call transcript, the one where someone threatened my job if I didn't withdraw my complaint. I recorded it, saved it, because I knew people like him make problems disappear. Caprio takes the transcript, scans it. His jaw tightens. Ms. Hale, why didn't you withdraw when threatened? She meets his eyes. Because I have a daughter. She's 8. She crosses that same intersection every morning. And if I let him buy his way out of consequences, what am I teaching her? That power wins, that money erases wrong. Her voice cracks but doesn't break. I'm a crossing guard. I make $34,000 a year. My wrist surgery cost $12,000 out of pocket because my insurance didn't cover it all. I'm still paying it off. She turns to Ethan for the first time. You could write a check right now and clear my debt without noticing the money left your account. But that's not what this is about. She looks back at Caprio. This is about whether we're still a country where law applies equally, where a man who nearly killed children faces the same justice as anyone else, where threats don't work just because they come from someone rich enough to make them stick. The courtroom is silent. Ethan's attorney whispers urgently, but Ethan waves him off. Jennifer continues. I didn't come here to ruin him. I came here because 9 kids were almost killed, and he tried to erase it like it never happened. Because he called my supervisor and threatened my livelihood for filing a truthful complaint. Because he thought his money made him untouchable. Her voice hardens. I'm here to prove he's wrong. Caprio leans forward. What do you want from this court, Ms. Hale? She doesn't hesitate. I want him held accountable. Not fined, not warned. Actually held accountable the way anyone else would be who destroyed evidence and threatened witnesses. I want my daughter to see that speaking truth to power still matters, even when power fights back. She pauses. Especially when power fights back. Ethan's face is red. His hands grip the table edge. Jennifer returns to her seat. The silence she leaves behind is crushing. This isn't about money, it's about principle. and principal can't be negotiated or purchased. Caprio looks at Ethan. You heard her testimony. Do you have a response? Ethan's mouth opens. His attorney's hand clamps over his arm. Your Honor, we'd like to cross-examine the witness. The attorney stands straightening his jacket like armor. Ms. Hale, you claim my client nearly killed children. But the video shows no actual contact, no collision, no injury except your own admittedly unfortunate fall. His voice is smooth, practiced condescension. Isn't it true you simply misjudged the distance and panicked? Jennifer's eyes narrow. I've been a crossing guard for 6 years. I know how to judge distance. He was doing 61 miles per hour. I saw his face. He wasn't slowing down. The attorney presses. You saw his face through a windshield while jumping backward. That seems like an assumption rather than an observation. Jennifer's voice stays level. I saw him look directly at me and accelerate. That's not an assumption. That's what happened. The attorney shifts tactics. Let's discuss your medical expenses. $12,000 is a significant sum for someone earning $34,000 annually. My client is willing to cover those expenses. Wouldn't that resolve this matter? Caprio's gavel cracks. Counsel, are you attempting to negotiate a settlement during witness testimony? The attorney backpedals. I'm simply exploring whether financial compensation might address Ms. Hale's concerns. Caprio's voice is ice. Her concerns are accountability, not payment. Continue your cross-examination or sit down. The attorney pivots again. Ms. Hale, you claim you received threatening phone calls, but you have no proof those calls originated from my client. The number belonged to his assistant, who could have been acting independently. Jennifer pulls out her phone. I have 3 voicemails, all from the same number, all referencing specific details about my employment that only someone with inside access could know. My supervisor's name, my shift schedule, my daughter's school. She hands the phone to the bailiff. You can listen to them yourself. The attorney's face tightens. Voicemails prove a call occurred. They don't prove my client ordered them. Caprio interrupts. Sharon Mitchell's sworn testimony states your client personally instructed her to contact Ms. Hale and apply pressure. Are you calling a federal cooperating witness a liar? The attorney goes silent. Caprio continues. Ms. Mitchell also provided emails, text messages, a paper trail showing your client's direct involvement in witness intimidation. The attorney tries one final angle. Your Honor, my client was operating under extreme stress, business pressures, personal obligations. He made poor decisions, but they weren't malicious. They were desperate. Caprio's laugh is sharp, cruel. Desperate. He paid $50,000 to destroy evidence. That's not desperation. That's calculation. He threatened a woman's employment. That's not stress. That's intimidation. He endangered children and tried to erase proof. That's not poor judgment. That's criminal intent. The attorney sits, defeated, exposed, every defense crumbling under the weight of documented evidence. Jennifer returns to the gallery. Her testimony stands unchallenged because it's unchallengeable. The truth doesn't negotiate. It doesn't settle. It just exists. Permanent. Recorded. Undeniable. Caprio stands. The courtroom follows instinctively. This case has exposed something beyond traffic violations, beyond evidence tampering, beyond witness intimidation. His voice fills the chamber. It's exposed a belief system where wealth purchases immunity, where power threatens accountability, where one man decides which laws deserve his obedience. He looks directly at Ethan. That belief system is incompatible with democracy, incompatible with justice, incompatible with the foundational principle that all people are equal before the law. He gestures to Jennifer in the gallery. Ms. Hale makes $34,000 annually. You make more than that in a week. She has a fractured wrist and mounting medical debt. You have 5 attorneys and unlimited resources. She came here seeking principle. You came here expecting privilege. He pauses. The difference between those positions is the difference between citizenship and aristocracy. Ethan finally speaks, voice strained. I'm not an aristocrat. I'm a businessman. I built my wealth. No one handed it to me. Caprio's response is brutal. You built wealth. Congratulations. That makes you successful. It doesn't make you sovereign. It doesn't grant you authority to destroy evidence or threaten witnesses or endanger children without consequence. He pulls up the Constitution on the courtroom monitor. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. He reads it slowly. Not all wealthy men, not all successful men, all men, equally subject to law, equally accountable for violations, equally bound by the same rules. He looks at Ethan. You claim people like you write the laws. You're half right. Citizens elect representatives who draft legislation. But once law exists, it binds everyone equally, including the people who funded the campaigns. Ethan's voice is desperate now. So what, I'm supposed to be punished more harshly because I'm successful? That's reverse discrimination. Caprio's laugh is harsh. No, you're punished equally. That's what terrifies you. You're so accustomed to wealth creating distance from consequence that equal treatment feels like persecution. He leans forward. For the first time in your adult life, money can't save you. Influence can't protect you. You stand here the same as anyone else who committed the same crimes. And that equality is what you can't tolerate. He picks up the gavel. Ms. Hale asked this court to prove that speaking truth to power still matters, that accountability still exists, that citizens can still challenge wealth without being crushed. He looks at the cameras. This verdict will answer her question, and it will answer it in a way that reminds everyone watching that in this courtroom, power doesn't speak louder than principle. Money doesn't outweigh truth, and wealth doesn't purchase exemption from the law you claim to write. The gavel rises. Ethan's face shows pure terror. Jennifer's shows something else. Hope. Fragile. Desperate. The hope that maybe, just maybe, the system still works when tested. Caprio's voice is final. Let's find out if she's right. The courtroom door is open. No knock. No announcement. A man walks in. Late 60s. Tailored suit that costs more than most people's cars. Silver hair. Commanding presence. Every eye turns. Ethan's face floods with relief, so visible it's pathetic. Dad! The word is barely audible, but the microphones catch it. Caprio's expression doesn't change. Sir, this is a closed hearing. Exit immediately or be removed. The man doesn't stop walking. Judge Caprio, Ethan Trask Sr. His voice fills the room effortlessly, decades of boardroom authority compressed into introduction. I'm here to resolve this situation before it becomes unnecessarily complicated. He doesn't ask permission to approach. He simply does, stopping 3 feet from the bench. I've reviewed the charges, the evidence, the testimonies, and I believe we can reach an arrangement that serves everyone's interests. Caprio's voice is ice. There are no arrangements in criminal proceedings. Sit down or leave. Trask Sr. doesn't move. Judge, I'm not here to obstruct. I'm here to offer practical solutions. He pulls a checkbook from his jacket. The gesture is casual, practiced, obscene. Ms. Hale's medical expenses, $12,000. I'll cover it immediately. Double it, call it $25,000 for her troubles and lost wages. He starts writing. The school district's concern about safety. I'll fund a complete traffic light upgrade, LED signals, pedestrian countdowns, $180,000 worth of improvements. The pen moves across paper. The court's concern about accountability. My son will complete community service, traffic safety courses, public apologies, whatever rehabilitative measures you deem appropriate. He tears out the check, holds it up. But prosecuting him as a criminal serves no one. It destroys a productive member of society. It costs taxpayers money for incarceration. It turns a mistake into a tragedy. He sets the check on the bench. This is restitution, compensation, a path forward that doesn't ruin lives. Caprio doesn't touch the check, doesn't even look at it. Mr. Trask, you just attempted to bribe a sitting judge in open court, on camera, with witnesses. Trask Sr. laughs, not nervous, genuinely amused. Bribery, Judge, I'm offering to compensate victims and fund public safety improvements. That's civic responsibility, not corruption. His smile is confident, practiced. Unless you're suggesting that making amends is illegal. The phrasing is elegant, dangerous. He's reframing payment as restitution, purchase as repair. Caprio's voice drops to something lethal. Your son destroyed evidence, intimidated witnesses, endangered children, and you think $180,000 erases criminal conduct. Trask Sr. spreads his hands reasonably. I think $180,000 does more good than sending my son to prison. It's not erasure. It's proportionality. It's recognizing that punishment should serve society, not satisfy vengeance. Caprio stands. The movement silences the room. Let me be absolutely clear about what just happened. His voice is shaking with barely controlled fury. You walked into my courtroom during active proceedings. You produced a checkbook. You offered money in exchange for leniency, and you're calling it civic responsibility. Trask Sr. opens his mouth. Caprio's hand slams the bench. I'm not finished. This court is not a marketplace. Justice is not for sale. Your son's freedom is not negotiable for the price of traffic lights. Each sentence lands like a hammer blow. What you just attempted is corruption. Textbook, documented, criminal. Trask Sr.'s confidence finally cracks. Judge, I'm simply trying to resolve this reasonably. My son made mistakes. I'm offering to make victims whole. How is that corruption? Caprio's response is brutal. Because you're not making victims whole. You're buying silence. You're purchasing compliance. You're treating criminal accountability like a debt that can be paid off. He points at the check still sitting on the bench. That check isn't restitution. It's a down payment on immunity. And the fact that you don't see the difference is exactly why your son believes law doesn't apply to him. Trask Sr.'s face flushes red. You're being unreasonable, idealistic to the point of stupidity. His voice rises, executive polish cracking into raw anger. My son made a traffic error. Yes, it was serious. Yes, people were endangered. But no one died. No one was permanently injured. And you're treating it like murder. He steps closer to the bench. I've spent 40 years building businesses, employing thousands, generating wealth that funds this entire city's infrastructure. And you're going to destroy my son over a moment of poor judgment? Caprio's laugh is vicious. A moment he committed 17 violations in 3 months. He paid $50,000 to destroy evidence. He ordered his assistant to threaten a witness. He stood in this courtroom and declared himself above the law. He leans forward until his face is inches from Trask Sr.'s. Those aren't moments. That's character. That's belief system. That's exactly what happens when someone is raised to think wealth erases consequence. Trask Sr.'s control shatters completely. So what you're going to punish me through my son? Make an example of him because you resent success? Caprio's voice goes quiet. Deadly quiet. No, I'm going to punish your son for crimes he committed. The fact that you can't distinguish between accountability and persecution is proof that money has insulated you from reality. For so long, you've forgotten what justice looks like. Ethan finally speaks, voice cracking with desperation. Dad, do something. You said you'd fix this. You promised. The words tumble out, childish, pathetic. Trask Sr. turns to his son, and for a moment something breaks in his face. Not love, realization. He's seeing what everyone else sees. A grown man begging to be rescued. A defendant who still believes someone will save him. Trask Sr. looks back at Caprio. What do you want? Name a price. Any price. The offer is naked now, stripped of pretense. My son's future for a number. You want $500,000 for the court system done? $1 million for victim services, consider it transferred. His voice is desperate, ugly. I'll fund your entire budget for 5 years if you make this disappear. The courtroom explodes in gas, shouts, chaos. Caprio's gavel cracks 3 times. Silence crashes back. When he speaks, his voice carries the weight of absolute authority. Bailiff, escort Mr. Trask Sr. from this courtroom. If he resists, arrest him for attempted bribery of a judicial officer. The bailiff moves forward. Trask Sr. backs away, hands raised. You're making a mistake, a career-ending mistake. Caprio's smile is terrifying. Is that a threat? Trask Sr. realizes too late what he said. No, I just mean, you don't understand the consequences of crossing people like us. The confession is complete. People like us. A class that believes itself untouchable. Caprio's response is final. I understand perfectly. That's why I'm ending this conversation before you incriminate yourself further. Leave. Now. Trask Sr. is escorted out, still talking, still threatening, still believing leverage exists somewhere if he can just find it. The doors close behind him. Silence floods back. Ethan sits alone now, completely alone. His father couldn't save him. His money couldn't buy freedom. His attorneys can't argue away recorded confessions. He's just a defendant facing consequences with no one left to rescue him. Caprio looks at him. Your father just proved everything this court suspected, that you were raised to believe problems can be purchased away, that accountability is negotiable, that law applies differently based on bank balance. Ethan's face is pale, hands shaking. He was trying to help. Caprio's response is crushing. He was trying to corrupt the process, just like you did with evidence, just like you did with witnesses, just like you've done your entire life. He picks up the gavel. But corruption requires participation, and this court doesn't participate. The gavel rises. You came here expecting privilege. Your father offered bribes. You both believed money would save you. The gavel hovers. You were both wrong, and now you're both going to learn what happens when the law stops bending. Ethan's voice is a whisper. Please. Caprio's response is final. That word doesn't work here. Caprio pulls the case file toward him, opens it with deliberate slowness. Every page turned audible through the microphones. The silence is suffocating. Ethan Trask Jr. This court has now heard testimony, reviewed evidence, and witnessed conduct that establishes the following facts beyond any reasonable doubt. He reads without looking up, voice clinical devastating. Fact 1. On September 14th at 3:17 p.m., you operated a vehicle at 61 miles per hour in a 35-mile-per-hour school zone, while children were present and a crossing guard was actively directing traffic. Fact 2. You nearly struck said crossing guard, causing her to fall backward and sustain injuries requiring surgical intervention, costing $12,000. He turns a page. Fact 3. On September 16th, you paid Marcus Webb $50,000 to corrupt security footage documenting your violation. This payment was made via wire transfer, documented and confirmed by Mr. Webb's sworn testimony to federal investigators. Another page. Fact 4. You instructed your personal assistant Sharon Mitchell to contact witness Jennifer Hale and threaten her employment if she pursued her complaint. Ms. Mitchell has provided emails, text messages, and voice recordings confirming this instruction came directly from you. He looks up finally. Fact 5. You stood in this courtroom and stated on record that you personally decide which evidence matters and which laws deserve your obedience. You claimed authority to determine when legal compliance is required. You described law as a commodity written by people like you. Each fact lands like a stone, dropped into still water ripples of consequence spreading outward. These are not allegations, Mr. Trask. These are documented facts, recorded, time-stamped, preserved. Your own words, your own actions. Ethan's attorney makes one last desperate attempt. Your Honor, my client acknowledges errors in judgment, but maintains he never intended. Caprio's gavel crashes down. Intent is established by action. Your client didn't accidentally pay $50,000 to destroy evidence. He didn't accidentally instruct his assistant to threaten a witness. He didn't accidentally claim authority to choose which laws apply to him. Every action was calculated, every decision deliberate, every crime committed with full awareness of illegality. He pulls up the penal code on the monitor. Evidence tampering, 5 years maximum sentence. Witness intimidation, 5 years. Obstruction of justice, 5 years. Reckless endangerment, 2 years. The numbers accumulate like debts being called. Maximum consecutive sentences total 17 years. Your client is facing nearly 2 decades in prison for crimes he committed to avoid a traffic ticket. The absurdity of that calculation hangs in the air. 17 years to avoid a fine. That's not poor judgment. That's pathological belief in immunity. Ethan's attorney stands, voice shaking. Your Honor, my client is a first-time offender. No prior criminal record. Extensive community ties. Significant business obligations. Incarceration would destroy not only his life, but the livelihoods of his employees. The argument is desperate grasping. We request probation, community service, financial restitution, anything but incarceration. Caprio's expression doesn't change. Your client's employment of 340 people does not grant him immunity from criminal prosecution. If it did, every CEO in America could commit felonies without consequence. The attorney tries another angle. The victims have been compensated. Ms. Hale's medical expenses will be covered. The school district will receive safety upgrades. Justice has been served through restitution. Caprio's laugh is sharp cruel. Restitution offered by his father in an attempted bribe 15 minutes ago? That restitution. The attorney's face drains. We're simply trying to make victims whole. Caprio's voice hardens. You're trying to purchase freedom. There's a difference. Your Honor, please. The attorney's voice cracks completely. My client made mistakes, serious mistakes, but he's not a violent criminal. He's not a danger to society. He's a businessman who panicked and made terrible decisions. Caprio leans forward. He's a man who believed wealth made him untouchable, who destroyed evidence, who threatened witnesses, who endangered children and tried to erase proof. Each accusation builds. That's not panic. That's systematic criminal conduct designed to evade accountability. The attorney plays his final card. A sentence of 17 years would be cruel and unusual punishment for nonviolent offenses. It violates Eighth Amendment protections. Caprio's response is immediate brutal. 17 years is the statutory maximum for crimes your client committed. If the legislature deemed these penalties cruel and unusual, they wouldn't have codified them. Your argument is with lawmakers, not me. Ethan finally speaks, voice hoarse, desperate. Judge, I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. I know I made terrible decisions. But 17 years. That's my entire life. My business, my family, everything. His face is crumbling, the arrogance from earlier completely evaporated. Please, I'll do anything. Pay anything. Accept any punishment except prison. Just please don't take my life away. Caprio's voice when he responds is quiet but carries the weight of absolute finality. You took Jennifer Hale's sense of safety when you threatened her job. You took 9 children's innocence when you nearly killed them. You took the justice system's integrity when you tried to corrupt it with money. He pauses. You didn't think about consequences then. Why should consequences care about you now? Caprio stands. The courtroom follows instinctively. Ethan Trask Jr., based on the evidence presented, testimony heard, and your own recorded admissions, this court finds you guilty of evidence, tampering witness, intimidation, obstruction of justice, and 17 counts of reckless endangerment. The words roll out like thunder. Final. Irreversible. Sentencing on these charges will occur in 30 days. Until that time, you are remanded to custody without bail. The word custody detonates. Ethan's face goes white. Wait. What? No, you can't. Caprio's voice overrides him. You are a demonstrated flight risk. You possess significant financial resources. You have shown willingness to corrupt legal proceedings. Bail is denied. He nods to the bailiff. Take him into custody immediately. The bailiff moves forward. Ethan backs away, hands raised, voice rising to something between rage and terror. You can't do this. I have rights. I have attorneys. I have... The bailiff grabs his arm. Ethan jerks away violently. Don't touch me. Get your hands off me. 2 more officers move in. Ethan is surrounded. This is illegal. This is kidnapping. I'm being illegally detained. Caprio's voice cuts through the chaos. You are being legally detained pursuant to criminal conviction. Resisting will add charges. Ethan isn't listening. He's shouting now, all composure shattered. My father will have your job. You'll never work again. You have no idea who you're dealing with. The officers grab both arms. Ethan struggles, thrashing, voice cracking. I'll sue you. I'll destroy you. You're nobody or nothing. The handcuffs come out. Ethan sees them and something breaks completely. No, 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 please. I'm sorry. I'll cooperate. Just don't. Please don't. The first cuff clicks around his wrist. The sound fills the courtroom. Metallic. Final. Absolute. I have money. I'll pay anything. Name a price. Any price. The second cuff locks. Both hands secured behind his back. Please! The scream echoes through the microphones, raw, desperate. The sound of someone who finally understands that money has limits, that power has boundaries, that consequences exist even for people who thought they stood above them. Caprio watches without expression as Ethan is pulled toward the exit, still shouting, still threatening, still begging. The doors open. Ethan is led through. The last thing visible is his face. Terror, disbelief, the expression of someone whose entire worldview just shattered. The doors close. Silence crashes back like a physical force. Caprio looks at the cameras still broadcasting live. Let the record show that wealth does not purchase immunity, that influence does not erase accountability, that in this courtroom law applies equally regardless of bank balance. He picks up the gavel one final time. Justice is not negotiable. It is not for sale, and it does not bend for anyone. The gavel falls. The sound echoes long after the image cuts to black. The doors have closed, but the hearing isn't finished. Caprio pulls up a new document. Before this court adjourns, we need to establish the conditions of Mr. Trask's detention and the parameters of his upcoming sentencing. The attorney still present looks shattered, but tries to function. Your Honor, regarding bail reconsideration. Caprio's hand rises. Denied. We've established that. Move on. He reads from the screen. Ethan Trask Jr. is remanded to county detention pending sentencing in 30 days. During that period, the following restrictions apply. His voice is clinical, administrative, stripping away any remaining dignity. No contact with witnesses. That includes Jennifer Hale, Marcus Webb, Sharon Mitchell, or any individual who provided testimony or evidence in this case. Violation results in additional charges of witness tampering. The attorney scribbles notes frantically. Caprio continues, no access to business communications except through court-appointed monitor. All emails, calls, and correspondence will be reviewed for attempts to obstruct justice or intimidate witnesses. He pauses. No visitors except legal counsel. No media interviews. No public statements. Any attempt to use wealth or influence to affect this case from detention will be treated as continuing criminal conduct. The attorney's voice is barely audible. Your Honor, my client runs multiple businesses. 30 days without access will cause irreparable financial harm. Caprio's response is immediate cold. He should have considered that before committing felonies. His business obligations do not supersede his criminal accountability. He pulls up another document. His companies have boards of directors, acting executives, succession plans. They'll survive 30 days. He chose to risk everything. Now he lives with that choice. Additionally, Caprio's voice hardens. At sentencing, this court will consider asset forfeiture. The $50,000 paid to Marcus Webb for evidence tampering was proceeds of crime. All assets used to facilitate criminal conduct are subject to seizure. The attorney's head snaps up. That would include, Caprio interrupts, vehicles used to commit violations, phones used to coordinate witness intimidation, bank accounts used to transfer bribe payments. All of it. The attorney tries one more time. Your Honor, asset forfeiture before conviction is... Caprio cuts him off. He was convicted 10 minutes ago. The jury was this court. The evidence was overwhelming. The verdict is final pending sentencing. He leans forward. And at sentencing, I will determine not only prison duration, but also financial penalties designed to ensure he never again believes money erases consequence. Caprio closes the detention file and looks directly at the camera still broadcasting. This case will be studied, analyzed, debated. So let me explain exactly why these consequences are necessary and proportional. His voice shifts from judicial to pedagogical. Ethan Trask Jr. is not being punished harshly because he's wealthy. He's being punished appropriately because he used wealth to commit crimes that undermine the legal system itself. He pulls up a chart. Evidence tampering. In isolation, perhaps a lesser crime. But when combined with witness intimidation and obstruction of justice, it becomes systematic corruption. It becomes an attack on truth itself. The chart shows connections between Trask's crimes, each line representing calculated criminal conduct. He didn't just break traffic laws. He broke the mechanisms we use to enforce all laws. He corrupted the process of discovering truth. That's why consequences must be severe. If this court allowed wealth to purchase leniency for evidence destruction, what precedent does that create? The question hangs. It tells every defendant with money that destroying proof is a calculated risk worth taking. It tells witnesses that coming forward means facing intimidation from people who can afford to threaten them. It tells the public that justice has a price tag. Caprio's voice rises with controlled passion. The law cannot function if evidence becomes optional for those who can pay to erase it. It cannot function if witnesses are silenced by threats backed by money. It cannot function if accountability applies only to people without resources to corrupt the process. He pauses. That's not law. That's plutocracy. And this courtroom will not enable it. He pulls up sentencing guidelines. Maximum 17 years. Will I impose that? Perhaps not. But the possibility must exist. Because Ethan Trask Jr. needs to understand that his crimes carried real risk, that his calculation, his belief that money would save him, was fundamentally wrong. His eyes bore into the camera. And everyone watching needs to understand that this court will not bend, will not negotiate, will not treat wealth as a mitigating factor when wealth was the tool used to commit the crime. At sentencing, I will consider rehabilitation potential, genuine remorse, concrete steps toward restitution that go beyond his father's attempted bribe. Caprio's voice softens slightly. But I will also consider the message this sentence sends. That evidence tampering destroys justice. That witness intimidation cannot be tolerated. That claiming personal authority to choose which laws apply is incompatible with democratic society. He looks at the attorney. Your client has 30 days in detention to reflect on his choices, to understand that his belief system, his worldview that money grants immunity, was catastrophically wrong, and to prepare for a sentence that will ensure he never forgets that lesson. The attorney nods numbly. Caprio's voice returns to administrative coldness. This court will reconvene for sentencing on November 18th at 9:00 a.m. Defendant will be present. Failure to appear results in additional charges in arrest warrant. Caprio pauses before closing the hearing. Something shifts in his expression. Less judge, more human. I want to address something directly. His voice is quieter now, almost contemplative. Ethan Trask Jr. walked into this courtroom believing he was untouchable. That belief didn't appear overnight. It was cultivated, reinforced, rewarded for decades. He looks toward where Ethan was standing before being taken into custody. His father tried to bribe me, openly, without shame, because that's how they've solved problems for generations. Write a check, make it disappear, move on. The observation is clinical but tinged with something that might be sadness. That's not Ethan's fault. It's his inheritance. A worldview passed down that wealth creates a separate legal reality. Caprio's voice hardens again. Inheritance doesn't excuse choice. Ethan is 34 years old enough to know destroying evidence is criminal, old enough to understand threatening witnesses is wrong, old enough to recognize that 9 children nearly died because of his decision to speed through a school zone. Each point lands with finality. He knew. He calculated. He chose crime anyway because he believed money would save him. Caprio pulls up the courtroom video from earlier in the hearing. Ethan's face during his father's attempted bribery. Relief, expectation, certainty that rescue was coming. Look at that expression. That's not a man who understands he committed crimes. That's a child expecting to be saved. He pauses. 30 days in county detention without access to wealth, influence, or rescue will teach him something his father never did. That actions have consequences money can't erase. He closes the video. When he returns for sentencing, this court will determine if those 30 days produce genuine understanding or just strategic compliance. If he's learned that law applies equally, or if he's simply learned to hide his contempt better. Caprio's eyes meet the camera lens directly. I hope it's the former, because if it's the latter, if he still believes wealth grants immunity, and this was just bad luck getting caught, then maximum sentencing becomes necessary. Not as punishment, as protection. Protection for a society that cannot function when people like him believe they're above it. He picks up the gavel one final time. This hearing is adjourned until sentencing. The defendant remains in custody. All conditions stand. Court is dismissed. The gavel falls. But before anyone moves, Caprio adds one final observation. Ms. Hale asked this court to prove that speaking truth to power still matters, that accountability still exists. He looks toward where she sits in the gallery. Today proves she was right to ask. Tomorrow's sentencing will prove she was right to hope. The camera's cut. The live stream ends. But the image remains. An empty defendant's chair. Handcuffs that click shut on someone who thought he was untouchable. And a judge who just reminded a watching nation that in his courtroom, justice doesn't negotiate. It doesn't bend. And it absolutely does not care how much money you have. The courtroom has emptied, but the cameras remain live for Caprio's final statement. He stands alone at the bench, no longer addressing a defendant, but speaking directly to everyone watching. Today's hearing exposed something that extends far beyond one man's crimes. His voice fills the empty chamber. It exposed a belief system, a worldview where wealth creates a separate legal reality, where money doesn't just buy comfort or opportunity, it buys immunity from consequence. He walks from behind the bench stands in the space where Ethan stood hours ago. Ethan Trask Jr. is not unique. He's symptomatic of a cultural disease where success is confused with sovereignty, where contributing to society is treated as purchasing authority over it. His voice hardens. He paid taxes, employed people, funded infrastructure, and somewhere along the way he convinced himself those contributions earned him the right to decide which laws applied to him. Caprio paces slowly, each step deliberate. But here's what he forgot, what his father forgot, what everyone who believes wealth grants immunity forgets. He stops, faces the camera directly. This courtroom is the one place in society where your bank balance is irrelevant, where your connections don't matter, where your ability to hire expensive attorneys doesn't change the fundamental question, did you break the law? In here, there is no aristocracy, no separate class of people who answer to different rules because they can afford to write checks. His voice rises with controlled passion. There is only law, applied equally, enforced consistently, binding every person who enters, regardless of what they own or who they know. He pauses, lets that principle breathe. That equality is what separates democracy from tyranny, justice from corruption, law from power. He returns to the bench but doesn't sit. Ethan Trask Jr. claimed people like him write the laws. He was partially correct. Wealth influences legislation through lobbying, donations, political access. That's legal. That's democracy functioning, however imperfectly. His expression hardens. But once law exists, once it's codified, once it's enacted, it binds everyone equally. The people who funded the campaign don't get exemption from the laws their candidates pass. Success doesn't purchase a separate legal code. Caprio picks up the case file one final time. This file documents 17 traffic violations, evidence tampering, witness intimidation, obstruction of justice, crimes that would send any defendant without resources to prison immediately. He sets it down. The only reason this case required a hearing this long is because Ethan Trask Jr. believed his wealth made him different, special, exempt. His voice drops to something cold. It didn't. It never did. And the 30 days he'll spend in county detention will teach him that truth more effectively than any speech I could give. Caprio sits finally, both hands visible on the bench, the posture of a teacher delivering a final lesson. To everyone watching this hearing, understand something clearly. His voice is measured, deliberate. Power and responsibility are inseparable. You cannot have one without the other. The more wealth you accumulate, the more influence you wield, the more your actions impact others, the greater your obligation to operate within the law. Ethan Trask Jr. employed 340 people, commanded millions in assets, made decisions affecting hundreds of families. He pauses. That power didn't grant him immunity. It magnified his responsibility, because when someone with that much influence decides law is optional, the damage spreads far beyond himself. He pulls up the school zone footage one more time. 9 children, 1 crossing guard, 47 witnesses, all endangered because one man decided his schedule mattered more than their safety. Caprio's voice intensifies. And when caught, when confronted, when presented with evidence of his recklessness, he didn't accept accountability. He destroyed proof, threatened witnesses, claimed personal authority to determine which evidence mattered. Each accusation builds. That's not a traffic case. That's an assault on the legal system itself. That's one man declaring himself above the process that protects everyone else. He leans forward, eyes boring into the camera. This cannot stand. It cannot be tolerated. It cannot be negotiated or settled or paid off with infrastructure donations. His voice is absolute. Because if we allow wealth to purchase exemption from evidence preservation, we destroy truth. If we allow influence to silence witnesses, we destroy testimony. If we allow power to corrupt accountability, we destroy justice itself. The sentence Ethan Trask Jr. receives in 30 days will reflect these principles. Caprio's tone becomes clinical. It will be proportional to his crimes. It will account for the systematic nature of his conduct. It will recognize that evidence tampering and witness intimidation are not errors in judgment, but calculated attacks on legal process. He pauses. And it will send a message that in this courtroom, wealth does not purchase different treatment. Success does not grant immunity. Power does not exempt anyone from accountability. He stands one final time. To Ms. Jennifer Hale, who came here seeking principal overpayment, this court thanks you. Your courage in facing intimidation, your refusal to accept settlement in place of accountability, your insistence that law matter equally for everyone. These are the actions that preserve democracy. His voice softens slightly. You asked if speaking truth to power still matters. Today proved it does. When power pushes back, when it threatens, when it offers money to make you disappear, and you stand firm anyway, that's citizenship at its finest. Caprio picks up the gavel. This hearing is now concluded, but the principle it established continues. Wealth does not purchase immunity. Influence does not erase accountability. And in this courtroom, justice applies equally to everyone who enters. The gavel falls. Final, absolute. The sound echoes through the empty chamber long after the camera feed cuts to black. The last image, an empty defendant's chair, a closed case file, and a judge who just reminded a nation that law doesn't negotiate with power, it simply holds it accountable. This video is created for educational and inspirational purposes under fair use, not to defame or attack any individual. Thank you for staying with us until the very end. It means the world. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and share so more voices can join this journey. Until next time, stay strong, stay awake, and I'll see you in the next video.